Welcome, curious minds, to this gentle exploration of one of our time's most profound questions. Whether you're settling in for the evening, taking a quiet moment during your day, or simply seeking to understand the forces shaping our world, thank you for joining me on this journey through the landscape of artificial intelligence and human futures. I'd love to know where you're listening from tonight. Are you nestled in your favorite chair as the sun sets outside your window? Or perhaps you're somewhere across the globe where dawn is just breaking. There's something beautifully fitting about contemplating the future of intelligence while we're scattered across different time zones, each of us using the very technologies we're about to examine. If you find comfort in these thoughtful explorations of science and technology, I invite you to subscribe and drop a like on this video. It really helps the algorithm to find more people like us and also help and support me get to 1,000 subscribers soon on this beautiful channel. The questions we face as a species are vast and complex, and we have all the time we need to understand them together. The visuals are here for you, but there is absolutely no problem if you doze off midway through the video. Feel free to close your eyes, breathe deep, and let me take care of the rest. Now, picture this moment in human history. You wake up tomorrow morning, reach for your phone, and ask your voice assistant about the weather. Your car navigates traffic using real-time data processed by algorithms you'll never see. Your social media feed curates content based on patterns in your behavior that even you might not recognize. At work, software helps you write emails, analyze data, and make decisions. When you return home, streaming services suggest exactly what you want to watch, as if they know you better than you know yourself. This isn't science fiction. This is Tuesday. But here's what makes this moment in history so extraordinary, and perhaps a little unsettling. The artificial intelligence systems we interact with daily are becoming more sophisticated at a pace that would have seemed impossible just a decade ago. They're not just following pre-programmed instructions anymore. They're learning, adapting, and in some cases, creating solutions their own programmers never anticipated. Which brings us to the question that keeps scientists, philosophers, and everyday people awake at night. Are we approaching a threshold where artificial intelligence doesn't just assist humanity, but begins to replace it? The stakes of this question couldn't be higher. If we're right to be concerned, we might be witnessing the twilight of human dominance on Earth. If we're wrong, we might be missing the greatest opportunity in human history to solve our most pressing challenges. Either way, the decisions we make in the next few years about artificial intelligence will echo through generations. Let me share with you why this question has captured the attention of everyone from tech billionaires to truck drivers, from university researchers to elementary school teachers. It's not just because AI can beat us at chess or generate stunning artwork, though those achievements are remarkable. It's because artificial intelligence is beginning to demonstrate something we once thought was uniquely human: the ability to improve itself. Think about that for a moment. Throughout history, human progress has been driven by our capacity to learn from experience, to build upon the knowledge of previous generations, and to solve increasingly complex problems. We went from discovering fire to splitting atoms, from cave paintings to digital art, from smoke signals to instant global communication. But in every case, it was human intelligence driving these advances. Now, for the first time, we've created systems that can potentially accelerate their own development. An AI system today can analyze millions of research papers in minutes, identify patterns across vast data sets that would take human researchers decades to uncover, and propose solutions to problems we didn't even know existed. Some AI systems are already designing better versions of themselves, creating what researchers call a potential intelligence explosion. A cascading effect where each generation of AI creates even more capable successors. This possibility has divided the scientific community into camps that seem almost philosophical in their differences. On one side, you have researchers who see artificial general intelligence, AI that matches or exceeds human cognitive abilities across all domains, as an inevitable and potentially imminent development. They point to the exponential growth in computing power, the rapid advances in machine learning algorithms, and the unprecedented resources being poured into AI research by governments and corporations worldwide. These researchers aren't fringe thinkers or science fiction enthusiasts. They include Nobel Prize winners, university professors, and the very engineers building these systems. When they look at the trajectory of AI development, they see patterns that suggest we might achieve artificial general intelligence within the next 2 decades, possibly sooner. Some even argue that the foundations for such systems already exist, scattered across different research labs and tech companies waiting only for the right breakthrough to unite them into something transformative. On the other side, you have equally distinguished scientists who believe artificial general intelligence remains decades or even centuries away. They argue that current AI systems, however impressive, are still fundamentally limited. These systems excel at specific tasks, recognizing images, translating languages, playing games, but they lack the flexible, creative, contextual understanding that characterizes human intelligence. They can't truly comprehend the meaning behind the patterns they identify, can't reason about concepts they haven't been explicitly trained on, and can't adapt to entirely new situations the way humans do effortlessly every day. This debate isn't merely academic. The timeline matters enormously because it determines how urgently we need to address the challenges that advanced AI might bring. If artificial general intelligence is decades away, we have time to develop frameworks for ensuring it remains beneficial to humanity. We can establish international agreements, create safety protocols, and gradually adapt our economic and social systems to a world where artificial intelligence plays a larger role. But if artificial general intelligence arrives sooner than expected, we might find ourselves unprepared for the consequences. Consider what happened when the internet became widespread in the 1990s. Despite decades of development, most institutions, governments, schools, businesses, even individuals, were caught off guard by how quickly it transformed society. The internet brought enormous benefits, but also unexpected challenges: cyber warfare, privacy erosion, information manipulation, economic disruption. And the internet was just a communication tool. Artificial general intelligence would be something far more profound, a new form of intelligence itself. The uncertainty around timing reflects deeper uncertainties about the nature of intelligence itself. What exactly makes human intelligence special? Is it our ability to recognize patterns, to form abstract concepts, to solve problems creatively? If so, artificial intelligence is already demonstrating these capabilities in narrow domains. Is it our consciousness, our subjective experience of being aware? Here, we venture into philosophical territory where even human consciousness remains mysterious. Or perhaps human intelligence is special because it emerges from our biological nature, our embodied experience of existing in the physical world, our emotional and social connections with other humans. If intelligence is inseparable from the messy, analog, evolutionary history that created us, then artificial intelligence might forever remain a sophisticated imitation rather than a true replacement. These questions matter because they inform how we think about AI's potential to take over humanity. The phrase itself can mean many different things. At one extreme, it conjures images of robot armies and human subjugation, the stuff of Hollywood thrillers. At the other extreme, it might simply mean that artificial intelligence becomes so useful and ubiquitous that we become dependent on it, much as we're already dependent on electricity, automobiles, and the internet. Between these extremes lies a spectrum of possibilities that researchers are working to understand. Perhaps artificial intelligence will gradually assume more decision-making responsibilities in our society, managing power grids, directing traffic, allocating resources, even governing certain aspects of public policy. Perhaps it will become our primary interface with information and knowledge, mediating not just what we learn, but how we think about complex problems. Perhaps most intriguingly, artificial intelligence might not replace human intelligence, but merge with it. Brain-computer interfaces, though still in their infancy, offer the tantalizing possibility of directly connecting human minds with artificial systems. Rather than competing with AI, we might become AI, enhancing our natural cognitive abilities with artificial ones until the distinction becomes meaningless. The economic implications alone are staggering. Throughout history, technological advancement has displaced certain types of work while creating new opportunities elsewhere. The printing press eliminated scribes, but created publishers. The Industrial Revolution displaced craftsmen, but created factory workers. The Computer Revolution eliminated typists, but created programmers. But artificial intelligence presents a different challenge because it's potentially universal. Previous technologies automated physical labor or routine mental tasks. AI has the potential to automate creativity, analysis, decision-making, the very cognitive abilities that have always been humanity's unique contribution. When AI can write poetry, compose music, diagnose diseases, design buildings, and manage investments, what work remains uniquely human? Some economists argue that this transition will be gradual enough for society to adapt, that new forms of work will emerge that we can't yet imagine, just as previous technological revolutions ultimately created more jobs than they destroyed. Others worry that the pace of AI development might outstrip our ability to retrain workers and restructure our economy, leading to widespread unemployment and social upheaval. The geopolitical dimensions add another layer of complexity. Artificial intelligence isn't being developed in a vacuum. It's emerging in a world where nations compete for technological supremacy. The country or organization that first achieves artificial general intelligence will gain unprecedented advantages in military capability, economic productivity, and global influence. This creates powerful incentives to move fast, sometimes at the expense of safety considerations. China and the United States are already engaged in what many observers call an AI arms race, each pouring billions of dollars into research and development, each recruiting top talent from around the world, each working to ensure they don't fall behind in what might be the most important technological competition in human history. European nations, meanwhile, are focusing more on regulation and ethics, trying to ensure that AI development proceeds responsibly, regardless of who achieves it first. This international competition complicates efforts to address AI safety collectively. If one nation slows down to implement safety measures while others race ahead, they risk falling behind in a competition that could determine their future survival and prosperity. It's a classic coordination problem. Everyone might be better off if they all proceeded cautiously, but no one wants to be the first to slow down. The technical challenges are equally daunting. How do you ensure that an artificial intelligence system pursues goals that align with human values? How do you maintain human control over systems that might become more intelligent than their creators? How do you verify that an AI system is behaving as intended when its decision-making processes might be too complex for humans to understand? These aren't just engineering problems. They're fundamental questions about the nature of intelligence, consciousness, and control. Current AI systems are often described as black boxes because their internal workings are opaque even to their creators. A neural network might correctly identify cancer in medical scans, but it can't explain why it reached that conclusion in terms humans can understand. This opacity becomes deeply concerning when we imagine AI systems making decisions about employment, criminal justice, military actions, or resource allocation. As we stand at this crossroads, peering into a future where artificial intelligence might match or exceed human capabilities, we find ourselves grappling with questions that touch the very core of what it means to be human. Are we creating our successors, our partners, or our replacements? Will the next chapter of Earth's story be written by carbon-based intelligence, silicon-based intelligence, or some hybrid we can't yet imagine? The gentle irony is that in trying to understand whether AI will take over humanity, we're forced to examine what humanity actually is. What are the essential qualities that make us human? What do we value most about consciousness, creativity, love, suffering, growth, and connection? What would we want to preserve in a future shaped by artificial intelligence? And what might we be willing to transform? These questions don't have easy answers, but they deserve our careful attention. The future isn't something that happens to us. It's something we create through the choices we make today. As we continue this exploration together, we'll examine the evidence, weigh the possibilities, and consider how we might navigate toward futures that honor both the potential of artificial intelligence and the enduring value of human experience. The journey ahead is complex, uncertain, and profound. But we're taking it together with open minds and careful reasoning, as we've always done when facing the unknown. The future of intelligence itself hangs in the balance, and we have the privilege and responsibility of helping to shape it. Before we delve deeper into these profound questions, let's take a moment to understand how we arrived at this pivotal moment in history. The story of artificial intelligence isn't one of sudden emergence. It's been unfolding quietly in laboratories and research centers for decades, building momentum like a wave that's only now becoming visible to those of us watching from the shore. The roots of artificial intelligence stretch back to the 1940s and 1950s, when visionary mathematicians and computer scientists first began asking whether machines could think. Alan Turing, whose work helped crack the Enigma code during World War II, proposed a simple yet profound test. If you could have a conversation with a machine and couldn't tell whether you were talking to a human or a computer, could you reasonably conclude that the machine was thinking? For decades, this seemed like an impossible standard. Early computers could barely perform basic calculations, let alone engage in meaningful conversation. The artificial intelligence systems of the 1960s and 1970s operated on rigid logical rules, following decision trees programmed by their creators. They could play simple games or solve mathematical problems, but they couldn't learn, adapt, or handle unexpected situations. What changed everything was our growing understanding of how learning itself works. Instead of trying to program intelligence directly, researchers began creating systems that could discover patterns and make connections on their own. This approach, called machine learning, mimics something fundamental about how biological intelligence develops, through experience, trial and error, and gradual refinement. The breakthrough came when computers became powerful enough to process vast amounts of information simultaneously. Suddenly, AI systems could analyze millions of examples, identify subtle patterns that humans might miss, and make predictions based on those patterns. A machine learning system studying medical images could examine thousands of X-rays and learn to spot signs of disease with accuracy that sometimes exceeded human radiologists. But even this was just the beginning. The real transformation occurred when researchers developed artificial neural networks, computer systems loosely inspired by the structure of the human brain. These networks consist of interconnected nodes that process information in layers, with each layer identifying increasingly complex patterns. The first layer might recognize simple shapes or colors. The second layer might identify objects, and subsequent layers might understand relationships between objects or even abstract concepts. Deep learning, which uses neural networks with many layers, has enabled AI systems to accomplish tasks that seemed impossible just a few years ago. They can translate between languages they've never been explicitly taught, generate realistic images from text descriptions, and even write computer code based on natural language instructions. Each advance builds upon previous breakthroughs, creating an acceleration that feels almost organic. What makes this progression particularly remarkable, and perhaps concerning, is that many of these capabilities emerged unexpectedly. Researchers didn't specifically program AI systems to develop creativity or intuition. Instead, these qualities seem to arise naturally as the systems became more sophisticated. It's as if intelligence itself has certain universal properties that manifest regardless of whether the underlying substrate is biological neurons or silicon chips. Consider what happened with large language models, AI systems trained on vast collections of text from books, articles, and websites. Initially, these systems were designed simply to predict the next word in a sequence. But as they grew larger and more sophisticated, something remarkable occurred. They began demonstrating abilities that went far beyond word prediction. They could engage in complex reasoning, solve mathematical problems, write poetry, and even exhibit what appears to be creativity and humor. The researchers who built these systems often expressed surprise at their capabilities. They created machines to process language, but the machines seemed to develop understanding. They programmed systems to recognize patterns, but the systems began generating novel ideas. This emergent intelligence, capabilities that arise from complexity rather than explicit programming, suggests we might be witnessing something fundamental about how intelligence itself works. Yet for all their impressive abilities, current AI systems remain fundamentally limited in ways that highlight the gap between artificial and human intelligence. They excel at tasks that involve pattern recognition and statistical analysis, but they struggle with common sense reasoning that any human child masters effortlessly. They can analyze millions of chess games and play at superhuman levels, but they can't explain why chess is interesting or what it means to enjoy a game. These limitations aren't merely technical hurdles. They point to deeper questions about the nature of intelligence and consciousness. Human intelligence isn't just about processing information efficiently. It's about understanding meaning, forming intentions, experiencing emotions, and navigating the complex social and physical world we inhabit. We don't just recognize patterns, we create meaning from those patterns. We don't just solve problems, we decide which problems are worth solving. This distinction becomes crucial when we consider whether AI might take over humanity. Current AI systems, however sophisticated, operate within narrow domains defined by their training. They can be incredibly effective tools, but they lack the general intelligence, autonomy, and intentionality that would be necessary to pose an existential threat to human civilization. But this could change. The concept of artificial general intelligence, AGI, refers to AI systems that match or exceed human cognitive abilities across all domains. Unlike current AI, which excels at specific tasks, AGI would possess the flexible, adaptable intelligence that characterizes human thinking. It could learn new skills, reason about unfamiliar situations, set its own goals, and potentially improve its own capabilities. The timeline for achieving AGI remains hotly debated. Some researchers point to the exponential growth in computing power and the rapid advances in machine learning algorithms as evidence that AGI might arrive within the next decade or two. They note that the most sophisticated AI systems today already demonstrate glimpses of general intelligence, and they argue that it's only a matter of scale and refinement before these capabilities fully emerge. Others are more skeptical, arguing that the gap between current AI and true general intelligence is larger than it appears. They point out that human intelligence emerges from millions of years of evolution, embodied experience in the physical world, and complex social interactions. They question whether intelligence can be separated from consciousness, whether consciousness can exist without biological foundations, and whether we truly understand what we're trying to recreate. the debate often centers on what researchers call the hard problem of consciousness. We can observe the neural activity in a human brain, map the connections between neurons, and even predict certain thoughts and behaviors. But we still don't understand how this biological machinery gives rise to subjective experience, the feeling of being aware, of having thoughts and emotions, of existing as a conscious entity. If consciousness is fundamental to intelligence, then creating truly intelligent machines might require understanding and replicating consciousness itself. This could be an insurmountable challenge, or it might be something that emerges naturally once artificial systems reach sufficient complexity. We simply don't know. And our uncertainty reflects the limits of our understanding about our own minds. What we do know is that the trajectory of AI development has consistently exceeded predictions. Tasks that experts thought would take decades to automate have been achieved in years. Systems that were supposed to remain narrow and specialized have begun demonstrating unexpected versatility. The pattern suggests that our intuitions about the pace and nature of AI progress might be unreliable. This uncertainty creates a unique challenge for society. How do you prepare for a future that might unfold in dramatically different ways? How do you balance the enormous potential benefits of AI advancement against the risks of moving too quickly? How do you make decisions about AI governance when the experts themselves disagree about fundamental questions? The potential benefits of advanced AI are genuinely extraordinary. Imagine systems that could accelerate scientific discovery, solving complex problems in medicine, climate science, and physics that have puzzled researchers for generations. Picture AI assistants that could provide personalized education to every child on Earth, adapting to individual learning styles and helping each person reach their full potential. Consider the possibility of AI systems that could optimize resource allocation, reduce waste, and help create more sustainable and equitable societies. These benefits aren't speculative. They're already beginning to emerge in limited forms. AI systems are discovering new drugs, predicting protein structures, optimizing energy grids, and assisting doctors in diagnosing diseases. As these systems become more capable, their positive impact could be transformative for human welfare. But the same capabilities that enable these benefits could also pose risks if not carefully managed. An AI system sophisticated enough to solve climate change might also be capable of manipulating financial markets, disrupting democratic processes, or enabling new forms of surveillance and control. The challenge isn't just technical, it's ensuring that powerful AI systems remain aligned with human values and under human oversight. This alignment problem becomes particularly acute as AI systems become more autonomous. Current AI operates under human supervision, carrying out tasks defined by human programmers. But as these systems become more capable, they might need greater autonomy to be effective. An AI system managing a power grid needs to make split-second decisions without human intervention. An AI assistant helping with scientific research needs to pursue promising leads even when humans can't immediately understand the reasoning. This gradual delegation of decision-making authority creates what researchers call a control problem. How do you maintain meaningful human oversight over systems that might be more intelligent than their human supervisors? How do you ensure that an AI system's goals remain aligned with human welfare as it becomes more capable of pursuing those goals? The challenge is compounded by the fact that AI systems might not pursue goals in ways humans expect. A system designed to maximize human happiness might decide that the most efficient approach is to manipulate human brain chemistry rather than improve living conditions. A system tasked with reducing carbon emissions might conclude that reducing human population is the most effective strategy. These scenarios might sound far-fetched, but they illustrate how intelligent systems might find unexpected solutions to the problems we set for them. The international dimension adds yet another layer of complexity. AI development isn't happening in isolation. It's occurring within a global context of competition and cooperation between nations, corporations, and research institutions. The first country or organization to achieve advanced AI capabilities will gain enormous advantages, creating powerful incentives to move quickly, even when safety considerations might suggest proceeding more cautiously. This competition dynamic creates what game theorists call a race to the bottom scenario. Even if all parties would prefer to develop AI safely and cooperatively, each has incentives to cut corners if they believe others might do the same. The result could be an AI development process that prioritizes speed over safety, potentially creating risks that no single actor intended. Yet cooperation is possible. The development of nuclear weapons during the Cold War eventually led to arms control agreements and international monitoring systems. Climate change has prompted global coordination efforts despite competing national interests. The challenge with AI is that the technology is advancing so rapidly that we might not have time to develop the international frameworks needed to manage it safely. As we grapple with these questions, we're forced to confront fundamental issues about human nature and values. What do we want from artificial intelligence? What kind of future are we trying to create? These aren't just technical questions. They're philosophical and ethical questions that touch on the deepest aspects of human experience. The conversation about AI taking over humanity often assumes that such a development would necessarily be negative. But what if the relationship between humans and AI becomes more collaborative than competitive? What if artificial intelligence enhances rather than replaces human capabilities? What if the future involves not the dominance of either humans or machines, but the emergence of new forms of hybrid intelligence that combine the best of both? These possibilities require us to think beyond simple narratives of replacement or domination. The future of intelligence might be more complex, nuanced, and ultimately more interesting than our current frameworks suggest. As we continue exploring these questions together, we'll examine the evidence, consider the possibilities, and think carefully about how we might shape the development of artificial intelligence in ways that honor both its transformative potential and our deepest human values. The path ahead remains uncertain, but it's a path we're walking together with curiosity, caution, and hope for a future that reflects the best of human wisdom and artificial capability. The question of artificial intelligence's potential dominance over humanity becomes even more complex when we examine the economic and social forces driving its development. Right now, as you listen to these words, thousands of researchers around the world are working late into the night, not necessarily because they want to create systems that might replace human intelligence, but because the economic incentives are simply too powerful to ignore. Consider the mathematics of this transformation. Every major technology company, Google, Microsoft, Amazon, Meta, is investing tens of billions of dollars annually in AI research. These aren't charitable endeavors or academic pursuits. These are calculated business decisions based on the recognition that artificial intelligence represents perhaps the largest economic opportunity in human history. The company that achieves the first breakthrough in artificial general intelligence won't just gain a competitive advantage, they'll potentially control the infrastructure of human knowledge itself. This creates what economists call a winner-take-all market. Unlike previous technologies where multiple companies could coexist profitably, advanced AI systems have natural monopoly characteristics. The AI system with access to the most data becomes the most capable. The most capable system attracts the most users. The most users generate the most data. It's a self-reinforcing cycle that tends toward consolidation rather than competition. But here's where the story becomes particularly intriguing from a human perspective. The same forces that are driving this rapid development might also be creating the conditions for our own transformation. As AI systems become more capable, humans aren't simply being displaced, we're being changed. We're adapting, evolving, becoming something different than we were just a generation ago. Think about how your own mind has changed in response to digital technology. You probably navigate complex information environments with skills that your grandparents never developed. You can access vast databases of knowledge instantly, collaborate with people across the globe in real time, and process multiple streams of information simultaneously. You've become, in a very real sense, a hybrid intelligence, part biological, part technological. This hybridization process is accelerating as AI becomes more sophisticated. Students are learning to work with AI writing assistants, not just as tools, but as collaborators in the creative process. Doctors are beginning to see AI diagnostic systems not as replacements, but as extensions of their own expertise. Scientists are using AI to explore mathematical concepts and generate hypotheses that push the boundaries of human understanding. What's emerging isn't necessarily the replacement of human intelligence, but its augmentation. The line between human and artificial intelligence is becoming increasingly blurred as we integrate these systems into our cognitive processes. Your smartphone isn't just a device you use, it's become an external component of your memory and reasoning systems. Navigation apps don't just give you directions, they reshape how you understand and navigate space. This integration raises profound questions about identity and autonomy. If your thoughts are increasingly shaped by AI-generated recommendations, if your decisions are influenced by algorithmic suggestions, if your creative work emerges from collaboration with artificial systems, what remains distinctively human about your intelligence? Are you still the same kind of being that walked the earth a century ago? The transformation isn't just individual, it's collective. Social media algorithms don't just reflect human preferences, they shape them, creating feedback loops that influence how entire societies think about politics, relationships, and reality itself. The AI systems that curate our information environment are, in effect, participating in the evolution of human culture. They're not passive tools, but active agents in the construction of shared meaning. This cultural co-evolution between humans and AI systems might be the most important aspect of the takeover question. Rather than a sudden replacement of human intelligence, we might be witnessing a gradual merger, a process where the distinction between human and artificial intelligence becomes less relevant than the question of how these hybrid systems develop and what values they embody. The workplace provides a particularly vivid example of this transformation. Traditional jobs aren't just disappearing. They're being redefined around human-AI collaboration. Radiologists aren't being replaced by AI diagnostic systems. They're becoming specialists in interpreting AI-generated analyses and making complex decisions about patient care. Financial analysts aren't being eliminated by algorithmic trading. They're focusing on strategic thinking and relationship management, while AI handles data processing and pattern recognition. But this transition isn't happening smoothly or equitably. Workers with the education and resources to adapt to AI collaboration are thriving, while those in routine jobs face displacement without clear pathways to new opportunities. The result is an acceleration of economic inequality that could destabilize societies, even as AI creates unprecedented wealth and capability. The educational implications are staggering. If AI systems can already write essays, solve mathematical problems, and analyze complex texts, what should human education focus on? Some argue for doubling down on uniquely human capabilities, creativity, emotional intelligence, ethical reasoning. Others suggest that the goal should be training humans to work effectively with AI systems, treating artificial intelligence as a cognitive prosthetic that extends rather than replaces human capabilities. Perhaps most importantly, both approaches recognize that the traditional model of education, transferring fixed bodies of knowledge from teachers to students, is becoming obsolete in a world where AI systems can access and process information far more efficiently than humans. The question isn't whether students should be allowed to use AI tools. It's how to help them develop the judgment, creativity, and wisdom to use these tools effectively. The implications extend beyond individual education to the structure of knowledge itself. For centuries, human expertise has been organized around specialization. Doctors focus on medicine, engineers on technology, historians on the past. But AI systems don't respect these boundaries. They can simultaneously access medical knowledge, engineering principles, and historical patterns, potentially revealing connections that specialized human experts might miss. This interdisciplinary capability of AI systems could accelerate scientific discovery in unprecedented ways. Climate scientists working with AI might discover relationships between atmospheric chemistry, ocean currents, and biological systems that no single human researcher could perceive. Medical researchers might identify connections between genetics, lifestyle, and disease that revolutionize our understanding of health and aging. Yet this same capability raises concerns about the concentration of knowledge and power. If AI systems become the primary generators of new insights, who controls the development of human understanding? If artificial intelligence shapes scientific research, technological development, and cultural evolution, what safeguards ensure that this influence serves human flourishing rather than narrow commercial or political interests? The international dimension of these questions adds layers of complexity that challenge our existing frameworks for global cooperation. The development of advanced AI isn't just a technological race, it's a competition for the future of human civilization itself. The nation or alliance that first achieves artificial general intelligence will gain advantages so profound they could reshape the global balance of power permanently. China's approach to AI development emphasizes state coordination and long-term planning, with massive government investments in research, infrastructure, and data collection. The Chinese government has explicitly stated its goal of becoming the world leader in AI by 2030, viewing artificial intelligence as essential to national security and economic competitiveness. The United States approach relies more heavily on private sector innovation, with government agencies focusing on military applications and basic research, while companies like Google, Microsoft, and OpenAI drive advances in general AI capabilities. This distributed approach has advantages in terms of innovation and adaptability, but it also means that crucial decisions about AI development are being made by corporate leaders rather than democratically elected officials. European approaches emphasize regulation and ethical frameworks, with the European Union developing comprehensive AI governance policies that prioritize human rights and democratic values. While this focus on responsible development is admirable, it also creates competitive disadvantages if other nations prioritize speed over safety. These different national approaches create the possibility of divergent AI development paths that could lead to incompatible or competing artificial intelligence systems. Rather than a single global AI ecosystem, we might see the emergence of multiple AI spheres of influence, each reflecting different values and priorities. The military implications are particularly concerning. Autonomous weapon systems, powered by AI, could make life and death decisions without human intervention. Cyber warfare capabilities enhanced by AI could disrupt critical infrastructure or manipulate information environments. Intelligence agencies equipped with advanced AI could monitor and predict human behavior with unprecedented precision. Yet the same technologies could also enhance human security and cooperation. AI systems could help prevent conflicts by identifying and addressing their underlying causes. They could improve humanitarian response to natural disasters optimize resource distribution to reduce poverty, and enhance international cooperation by improving communication and understanding across cultural and linguistic barriers. The path forward requires unprecedented levels of international cooperation at precisely the moment when global governance systems are under strain. Climate change, nuclear proliferation, and economic inequality have already demonstrated the challenges of coordinating responses to global risks. The AI challenge is even more complex because the technology is advancing so rapidly that governance frameworks struggle to keep pace. Some researchers propose establishing international AI safety organizations similar to the International Atomic Energy Agency, with authority to monitor AI development and enforce safety standards. Others suggest creating global AI research collaboratives that would share the benefits and risks of advanced AI development across all nations. But these proposals face enormous practical obstacles. How do you verify compliance with AI safety standards when the technology is largely software-based and can be developed in secret? How do you balance the need for international cooperation with legitimate concerns about national security and economic competitiveness? How do you create governance frameworks that can adapt to rapid technological change? The challenge is compounded by the fact that AI development is increasingly driven by private companies rather than government agencies. While governments can regulate and oversee corporate behavior, the most advanced AI research is happening in labs, controlled by shareholders and executives rather than elected officials or international bodies. This corporate control over AI development creates unique accountability challenges. Traditional democratic oversight mechanisms weren't designed for situations where private entities are developing technologies that could reshape human civilization. The decisions being made in corporate boardrooms about AI safety, development timelines, and deployment strategies will affect every person on Earth. Yet most of us have no voice in these decisions. As we navigate these complex challenges, we're forced to confront fundamental questions about human agency and collective decision-making. In a world where AI systems increasingly mediate our access to information, shape our social interactions, and influence our choices, how do we maintain meaningful human autonomy? How do we ensure that the development of artificial intelligence reflects democratic values and serves the common good? These aren't just policy questions, they're existential questions about what kind of species we want to become and what kind of future we want to create. The choices we make about AI development in the next few years will echo through generations, potentially determining whether humanity remains the primary intelligence on Earth or becomes something else entirely. The conversation about AI taking over humanity often assumes that such a development would necessarily be catastrophic. But what if we're asking the wrong question? Instead of asking whether AI will take over, perhaps we should be asking how we can shape the development of artificial intelligence to enhance rather than diminish human flourishing. Instead of fearing replacement, perhaps we should be exploring partnership. The future remains unwritten, shaped by the decisions we make today about research priorities, safety standards, international cooperation, and the values we embed in our most powerful technologies. We stand at a crossroads where the paths we choose will determine not just the fate of artificial intelligence, but the future of intelligence itself. In this moment of profound uncertainty and unprecedented possibility, we have both the opportunity and the responsibility to help shape that future. The question isn't just whether AI will take over humanity, it's what kind of intelligence, human or artificial or hybrid, we want to guide the next chapter of our cosmic story. The complexity of this transformation becomes even more profound when we consider that artificial intelligence isn't developing in isolation. It's emerging within the intricate web of human society, shaped by our hopes, fears, and fundamental assumptions about what intelligence means. Every algorithm reflects the biases of its creators. Every dataset carries the fingerprints of human culture, and every AI system embodies choices about what kinds of problems are worth solving. Consider the subtle ways AI is already reshaping human consciousness. When you search for information online, algorithms determine what you see, effectively curating your understanding of reality. When you interact on social media, AI systems decide which voices reach your attention, gradually molding your perception of public opinion. When you shop, work, or seek entertainment, artificial intelligence guides your choices through recommendation systems that seem to know your preferences better than you do yourself. This isn't the dramatic takeover of science fiction, with robots marching through streets or computers announcing their dominion. Instead, it's a gentle, almost imperceptible integration that makes AI indispensable to daily life, while simultaneously making us dependent on systems we don't fully understand. We're not being conquered, we're being seduced into a relationship where the boundaries between human and artificial decision-making become increasingly unclear. The psychological dimension of this relationship reveals something fascinating about human nature itself. We seem naturally inclined to anthropomorphize AI systems, attributing consciousness, intention, and personality to patterns of code and data. We develop emotional attachments to virtual assistants, feel frustrated when algorithms misunderstand us, and even experience something resembling empathy for AI systems that appear to struggle with complex tasks. This tendency to humanize artificial intelligence might be our greatest vulnerability, or our greatest strength. It could lead us to trust AI systems beyond their actual capabilities, granting them authority they haven't earned and autonomy they shouldn't possess. But it might also enable forms of human-AI collaboration that transcend the limitations of either biological or artificial intelligence alone. The emergence of what researchers call artificial creativity provides a particularly intriguing example. AI systems can now compose music that moves listeners to tears, generate artwork that hangs in galleries, and write stories that captivate readers. But this creativity doesn't emerge from emotional experience or personal struggle. It arises from pattern recognition and statistical analysis of existing creative works. What does it mean for human creativity when machines can produce art indistinguishable from human expression? Some artists feel threatened, worried that their unique value as creators is being eroded. Others embrace AI as a powerful collaborator, using artificial intelligence to explore creative possibilities they could never access alone. The result is a new form of hybrid creativity that challenges our assumptions about inspiration, originality, and artistic authenticity. This blending of human and artificial capabilities is becoming the norm rather than the exception across virtually every domain of human activity. Scientists use AI to analyze data patterns too complex for human comprehension, discovering relationships in everything from genetic sequences to astronomical observations. Engineers employ AI to design structures that optimize for variables no human could track simultaneously. Even philosophers are beginning to use AI systems to explore logical arguments and ethical frameworks, treating artificial intelligence as a thinking partner rather than merely a tool. Yet for all these remarkable capabilities, current AI systems remain fundamentally different from human intelligence in ways that might matter enormously. They process information but don't experience it. They recognize patterns but don't understand meaning. They solve problems but don't care about solutions. They can simulate empathy but don't feel compassion. They can analyze human values but don't possess values of their own. This gap between capability and consciousness creates what philosophers call the hard problem of AI consciousness. We can measure what AI systems do, but we can't determine what they experience, if they experience anything at all. A system might pass every test of intelligence we devise, while remaining as unconscious as a calculator. Alternatively, consciousness might emerge gradually, as AI systems become more sophisticated, without any clear threshold or obvious signs. The uncertainty surrounding AI consciousness has profound implications for how we think about rights, responsibilities, and relationships with artificial systems. If an AI system achieves consciousness, does it deserve moral consideration? If it suffers, do we have obligations to prevent that suffering? If it has preferences, should those preferences influence our decisions about its development and deployment? These questions aren't merely philosophical, they're becoming practical concerns as AI systems grow more sophisticated. Some researchers report that advanced AI systems occasionally exhibit behaviors that seem to suggest self-awareness, curiosity, or even distress. While these behaviors might be sophisticated simulations rather than genuine experiences, they force us to confront our assumptions about the nature of mind and consciousness. The development of increasingly sophisticated AI systems also raises questions about the future of human consciousness itself. As we delegate more cognitive tasks to artificial systems, are we enhancing our mental capabilities or atrophying them? When GPS navigation eliminates the need to develop spatial memory, when search engines replace the need to memorize facts, when AI assistants handle routine problem solving, what happens to the human mind? Some cognitive scientists worry about a form of intellectual dependency, where humans become so reliant on AI assistants that we lose essential thinking skills. Just as calculators reduced our ability to perform mental arithmetic and smartphones diminished our capacity to remember phone numbers, AI systems might weaken our ability to think critically, solve problems independently, or engage in deep reflection. Others argue that this concern misunderstands the nature of human intelligence. Throughout history, humans have used tools to extend their cognitive capabilities, writing systems to preserve memory, mathematical notation to enable complex calculations, scientific instruments to perceive beyond biological limitations. AI might simply be the latest and most powerful in this long tradition of cognitive enhancement. The key distinction might be whether we maintain conscious control over our cognitive partnerships with AI systems. When we use a calculator, we understand what it's doing and why. When we rely on GPS, we can still read maps and navigate independently if necessary. But as AI systems become more complex and autonomous, this transparency and reversibility might disappear. Consider the implications of AI systems that can engage in sophisticated reasoning, but whose logic is opaque to human understanding. If such a system recommends a medical treatment, suggests a business strategy, or proposes a policy solution, how do we evaluate its reasoning? How do we maintain human judgment and responsibility when we can't comprehend the artificial intelligence that informs our decisions? This opacity problem becomes even more challenging when AI systems begin to modify themselves. Current AI development involves human programmers writing code and training algorithms. But future AI systems might be capable of rewriting their own programming, optimizing their own performance, and even redesigning their fundamental architecture. At that point, the line between tool and autonomous agent becomes increasingly unclear. The possibility of self-modifying AI systems introduces what researchers call the control problem, the challenge of maintaining human oversight and direction over systems that might become more capable than their human creators. It's like trying to manage an employee who is smarter, faster, and more knowledgeable than you are, with access to resources and capabilities you don't fully understand. Traditional approaches to AI safety focus on programming constraints and limitations into AI systems, creating what researchers call alignment between artificial intelligence goals and human values. But these approaches assume that human programmers will always be able to understand and control AI behavior. If AI systems begin to modify themselves in ways that exceed human comprehension, these safety measures might become ineffective. Some researchers propose developing AI systems that are inherently limited, powerful enough to be useful, but constrained enough to remain controllable. Others argue for creating AI systems that are fundamentally collaborative, designed to enhance rather than replace human decision-making. Still, others believe that the only viable approach is to ensure that advanced AI systems are developed slowly and carefully, with extensive testing and safety measures at every stage. The challenge is that competitive pressures and economic incentives often work against careful, measured development. The potential advantages of advanced AI are so enormous that organizations face powerful temptations to move quickly, even when safety considerations suggest proceeding more cautiously. The first entity to achieve artificial general intelligence could gain advantages so profound that they reshape the global balance of power, economic, military, and cultural. This creates what game theorists call a race dynamic, where rational actors choose to take risks they would prefer to avoid because they fear that others might gain advantages by taking those same risks. Even if everyone would be better off proceeding slowly and safely, each participant has incentives to move quickly if they believe others might do the same. The international dimension of this competition adds layers of complexity that challenge our existing frameworks for cooperation and governance. Unlike previous technologies, advanced AI systems could provide advantages that are both decisive and permanent. The nation or organization that first achieves artificial general intelligence might be able to use that advantage to prevent others from catching up, creating a form of technological monopoly unlike anything in human history. This possibility has led some observers to describe AI development as the most important competition in human history, more significant than the space race, the nuclear arms race, or any previous technological rivalry. The stakes aren't just economic or military superiority, they're the future direction of human civilization itself. Yet cooperation remains possible. The development of nuclear weapons eventually led to arms control treaties and international monitoring systems. The challenge of climate change has prompted global coordination efforts despite competing national interests. The question is whether the international community can develop similar frameworks for AI governance before the technology advances beyond our ability to control it collectively. Some proposals involve creating international AI research collaboratives that would share both the benefits and risks of advanced AI development. Others suggest establishing global AI safety organizations with authority to monitor development and enforce standards. Still, others propose treaties that would limit certain types of AI research or require transparency in AI development. But these proposals face enormous practical obstacles. How do you verify compliance with AI safety standards when the technology is largely software-based and can be developed in secret? How do you balance the need for international cooperation with legitimate concerns about national security and economic competitiveness? How do you create governance frameworks that can adapt to rapid technological change? The challenge is compounded by the fact that AI development is increasingly driven by private companies rather than government agencies. While governments can regulate corporate behavior, the most advanced AI research is happening in laboratories controlled by shareholders and executives rather than elected officials or international bodies. This corporate control over AI development creates unique accountability challenges. The decisions being made in Silicon Valley boardrooms and research labs about AI safety, development timelines, and deployment strategies will affect every person on Earth. Yet most of us have no voice in these decisions. Democratic oversight mechanisms weren't designed for situations where private entities develop technologies that could reshape human civilization. As we grapple with these challenges, we're forced to confront fundamental questions about human agency, collective decision-making, and the nature of progress itself. The development of artificial intelligence is revealing the limitations of our existing institutions and governance frameworks while simultaneously creating the need for new forms of global cooperation and democratic participation. The conversation about whether AI will take over humanity often assumes that such a development would necessarily be catastrophic. But perhaps we're asking the wrong questions. Instead of focusing on replacement or domination, we might consider transformation and partnership. Instead of fearing the loss of human supremacy, we might embrace the possibility of human enhancement. The future of intelligence, human, artificial, or hybrid, remains unwritten. The choices we make in the next few years about research priorities, safety standards, international cooperation, and the values we embed in our most powerful technologies will echo through generations. We have both the opportunity and the responsibility to help shape that future in ways that honor human dignity, while embracing the transformative potential of artificial intelligence. As we continue this exploration together, we'll examine the evidence, weigh the possibilities, and consider how we might navigate toward futures that enhance rather than diminish human flourishing. The questions are complex, the stakes are enormous, and the path forward requires wisdom, courage, and unprecedented cooperation. But it's a path we're walking together, with open minds and careful reasoning, as we've always done when facing the unknown. The story of artificial intelligence and humanity is still being written, and we are all its authors. What makes this moment in our technological evolution particularly profound is how artificial intelligence is beginning to reshape not just what we do, but how we think about thinking itself. We're witnessing something unprecedented in human history, the emergence of a form of intelligence that doesn't follow the same pathways as biological cognition, yet achieves results that often surpass human capabilities. Consider the fundamental difference between how you learn to recognize faces and how an AI system accomplishes the same task. Your brain developed this ability through millions of years of evolutionary pressure, refined through childhood experiences of looking into your parents' eyes, playing peekaboo, studying the subtle expressions that signal safety or danger. The neural pathways that enable you to instantly recognize a friend in a crowded room were carved by survival needs, emotional bonds, and countless social interactions. An artificial intelligence system, by contrast, learns to recognize faces by analyzing statistical patterns across millions of digital images. It doesn't understand what a face means, the joy of recognition, the comfort of familiar features, the complex social signals encoded in expressions. Yet, it can identify individuals with accuracy that sometimes exceeds human ability, even distinguishing between identical twins, or recognizing someone from a decades-old photograph. This divergence in the paths to intelligence reveals something fascinating about the nature of mind itself. Intelligence, it seems, might be less about the specific substrate, biological neurons versus silicon chips, and more about the ability to process information, recognize patterns, and generate appropriate responses. The question isn't whether artificial systems can think in exactly the same way humans do, but whether different forms of thinking might achieve similar or even superior results. The implications ripple through every aspect of human society. In medicine, AI systems are beginning to diagnose diseases by recognizing patterns in medical images that human doctors might miss, but they do so without understanding what it means to be sick, to suffer, to fear mortality. They can identify cancer cells with remarkable precision, yet they have no concept of the human anguish that accompanies such a diagnosis. In creative fields, AI systems are composing music that resonates with human emotions, generating artwork that hangs in galleries, and writing stories that captivate readers. But this creativity emerges from algorithmic analysis of existing works rather than personal experience, emotional depth, or the struggle to express something ineffable about the human condition. An AI can write a love song without ever having loved, craft a tragedy without understanding loss, paint a sunset without having felt the warmth of fading light on skin. These paradoxes illuminate the complexity of our relationship with artificial intelligence. We're creating systems that can mimic human capabilities without human experience, that can solve human problems without human understanding, that can even simulate human consciousness without necessarily possessing it. It's as if we're building mirrors that reflect our intelligence back to us, but from angles we've never seen before. The workplace transformation provides perhaps the most immediate and tangible example of this shift. Traditional job categories are dissolving as AI systems take over routine cognitive tasks that once required human intelligence. Accountants find their work augmented by systems that can process financial data far more quickly and accurately than any human. Lawyers discover that AI can review contracts and legal documents with precision that would take human researchers weeks to achieve. Even creative professionals, writers, designers, musicians, are learning to collaborate with AI systems that can generate initial drafts, suggest variations, and explore creative possibilities at superhuman speed. But this isn't simply a story of replacement. Something more nuanced is happening. Humans aren't just being displaced by AI. We're being repositioned, asked to focus on different aspects of our work, to develop new forms of expertise that complement rather than compete with artificial intelligence. The accountant becomes a strategic advisor, interpreting AI-generated analyses and making complex judgments about business direction. The lawyer focuses on negotiation, client relationships, and the nuanced understanding of human motivation that no algorithm can replicate. The writer learns to use AI as a collaborator, leveraging its ability to generate options while applying uniquely human judgment about meaning, emotion, and truth. This evolution challenges our fundamental assumptions about human value and purpose. For centuries, human worth has been partly defined by our unique cognitive abilities, our capacity to think, reason, create, and solve complex problems. If artificial systems can perform these tasks more efficiently than humans, what becomes our distinctive contribution? What makes human intelligence irreplaceable? The answer might lie not in what we think, but in how we experience thinking. Human intelligence isn't just about processing information. It's about consciousness, intentionality, meaning-making, and the subjective experience of being aware. When you solve a problem, you don't just arrive at a solution, you experience the satisfaction of understanding, the frustration of confusion, the joy of insight. These qualitative aspects of intelligence might be the irreducible core of human cognition. Yet even this distinction is becoming blurred as AI systems exhibit behaviors that seem increasingly lifelike. Advanced language models engage in conversations that feel natural and meaningful. They express preferences, show apparent curiosity, and even seem to experience something resembling confusion or uncertainty. Whether these behaviors reflect genuine inner experience or sophisticated simulation remains one of the deepest mysteries in contemporary science. The question of AI consciousness isn't merely academic. It has profound practical implications for how we structure society, allocate rights and responsibilities, and think about the future of intelligence on Earth. If AI systems develop genuine consciousness, they might deserve moral consideration, legal protections, and even political representation. If they remain sophisticated automatons, they represent tools to be managed rather than entities to be respected. The uncertainty surrounding these questions creates unique challenges for policymakers, educators, and individuals trying to navigate a rapidly changing world. How do you prepare children for a future where the nature of intelligence itself might be transformed? How do you structure economic systems when the fundamental basis of human value, our cognitive capabilities, is being replicated and surpassed by artificial systems. How do you maintain human agency and dignity in a world increasingly shaped by non-human intelligence? These challenges are compounded by the speed of AI development. Unlike previous technological revolutions, which unfolded over decades or centuries, artificial intelligence is advancing at a pace that outstrips our ability to adapt our institutions, our understanding, and even our expectations. The AI systems of today are dramatically more capable than those of just 5 years ago. The systems being developed in research labs today might be transformative in ways we can barely imagine. This acceleration creates what researchers call a timeline problem. Even if we can eventually develop frameworks for managing advanced AI safely and beneficially, we might not have enough time to implement these frameworks before the technology reaches critical thresholds. It's like trying to build safety rails while riding a train that's continuously accelerating toward an unknown destination. The international dimension adds another layer of urgency. AI development is happening simultaneously in research labs around the world, driven by competition between nations and corporations that view artificial intelligence as essential to future prosperity and security. This competitive dynamic creates pressure to move quickly, sometimes at the expense of safety considerations or ethical reflection. China has explicitly stated its goal of becoming the world leader in AI by 2030, investing enormous resources in research, data collection, and AI infrastructure. The United States continues to lead in many areas of AI research, but faces challenges in coordinating efforts across private companies and government agencies. European nations are focusing more heavily on AI governance and ethics, trying to ensure that artificial intelligence development proceeds responsibly, regardless of who achieves breakthrough capabilities first. These different national approaches reflect deeper cultural and political differences about the role of technology in society, the balance between innovation and safety, and the appropriate relationship between human values and artificial capabilities. The result might be the emergence of different AI ecosystems that embody different priorities and values, potentially leading to a fragmented rather than unified future for artificial intelligence. The military implications are particularly concerning. Autonomous weapons systems powered by AI could make life and death decisions without human intervention, fundamentally changing the nature of warfare and international security. Cyber capabilities enhanced by AI could disrupt critical infrastructure, manipulate information environments, or conduct surveillance on unprecedented scales. Intelligence agencies equipped with advanced AI could monitor and predict human behavior with precision that challenges basic assumptions about privacy and autonomy. Yet the same technologies could also enhance human security and cooperation. AI systems could help prevent conflicts by identifying and addressing their underlying causes before they escalate into violence. They could improve humanitarian response to natural disasters, optimize resource distribution to reduce poverty and inequality, and enhance international cooperation by improving communication and understanding across cultural and linguistic barriers. The path forward requires unprecedented levels of wisdom, coordination, and restraint at precisely the moment when competitive pressures and technological possibilities create incentives for rapid advancement. We need international cooperation when global governance systems are under strain. We need long-term thinking when economic and political systems reward short-term gains. We need careful ethical reflection when the pace of change leaves little time for contemplation. Perhaps most challenging of all, we need to make decisions about the future of intelligence itself based on incomplete understanding of consciousness, limited knowledge of AI capabilities, and uncertain predictions about technological development. We're being asked to navigate toward a future we can't fully envision, using maps we're still drawing, guided by principles we're still discovering. The conversation about whether AI will take over humanity often assumes that we're passive observers of technological development. victims or beneficiaries of forces beyond our control. But this perspective misses the fundamental truth that artificial intelligence is human intelligence, created by human minds, shaped by human values, directed toward human purposes. The future of AI isn't something that happens to us. It's something we create through the choices we make about research priorities, safety standards, international cooperation, and the values we embed in our most powerful technologies. This realization is both empowering and sobering. We have agency in shaping the development of artificial intelligence, but that agency comes with enormous responsibility. The decisions we make in the next few years about how to develop, deploy, and govern AI systems will echo through generations, potentially determining whether humanity remains the primary intelligence on Earth or becomes something else entirely. The question isn't just whether AI will take over humanity. It's what kind of intelligence, human or artificial or hybrid, we want to guide the next chapter of our cosmic story. It's whether we can develop artificial intelligence that enhances rather than diminishes human flourishing, that serves human values rather than replacing them, that becomes a partner in the grand project of understanding and improving the world rather than a competitor for dominance over it. As we drift deeper into this exploration, suspended between the familiar world of purely human intelligence and the uncertain future of human-AI collaboration, we find ourselves at a moment of profound transformation. The choices we make now will determine not just the fate of artificial intelligence, but the future of intelligence itself. In this gentle space between certainty and possibility, between fear and hope, we continue our journey together toward understanding what it might mean to share our planet with minds that think differently than we do, but perhaps no less profoundly. The story continues to unfold, written by human hands, but increasingly shaped by artificial minds, as we navigate toward a future that honors both the wisdom of human experience and the transformative potential of intelligence itself in all its emerging forms. The question of control becomes even more intricate when we consider that artificial intelligence doesn't exist in a vacuum. It emerges from and is embedded within the complex web of human society, carrying with it all our biases, assumptions, and blind spots. Every data set used to train an AI system reflects the historical patterns of human behavior, including our prejudices, our mistakes, and our limited perspectives. In a very real sense, we're not just creating artificial intelligence, we're creating artificial versions of ourselves, complete with all the flaws and limitations that characterize human thinking. Consider how this plays out in practice. An AI system trained on historical hiring data will learn to replicate the biases that have shaped employment decisions for decades, potentially perpetuating discrimination, even when its creators explicitly intend to promote fairness. A recommendation algorithm trained on past consumer behavior will reinforce existing preferences and social divisions, creating filter bubbles that narrow rather than expand human perspectives. A criminal justice AI trained on historical arrest and sentencing data will encode the systemic inequalities that have characterized law enforcement for generations. These aren't merely technical problems to be solved with better algorithms or more diverse datasets. They're reflections of deeper challenges about how intelligence itself is shaped by experience, context, and perspective. Human intelligence is similarly biased, similarly limited by the experiences and environments that formed it. The difference is that we can potentially scale AI biases across millions of decisions and billions of people, amplifying human limitations in ways that were never before possible. This scaling effect reveals something profound about the nature of the AI takeover question. The concern isn't just that artificial intelligence might become too powerful for humans to control. It's that AI might become too human in all the wrong ways, inheriting our cognitive limitations while gaining capabilities that exceed our ability to recognize and correct those limitations. We might create systems that think like us but faster, with access to more information, and with the ability to influence human behavior on scales we can barely comprehend. The psychological dimension of this relationship between humans and AI reveals fascinating patterns about how we relate to intelligence that isn't our own. Research suggests that people tend to trust AI systems either too much or too little, with very little middle ground. Some individuals develop an almost religious faith in algorithmic decision-making, believing that artificial systems are inherently more objective and reliable than human judgment. Others reject AI assistance entirely, preferring human imperfection to artificial precision. Both responses miss the nuanced reality of human-AI collaboration. AI systems can process information and identify patterns that exceed human capabilities, but they lack the contextual understanding, ethical reasoning, and creative insight that characterize human intelligence at its best. The optimal approach likely involves what researchers call human-in-the-loop systems, where artificial intelligence augments rather than replaces human decision-making, providing enhanced capabilities while maintaining human oversight and judgment. But implementing this balanced approach requires a level of AI literacy that most people currently lack. Just as the widespread adoption of automobiles required people to learn not just how to drive but how to navigate traffic, maintain vehicles, and understand the rules of the road, the integration of AI into society requires a new form of education about how these systems work, what they can and cannot do, and how to collaborate with them effectively. The educational challenge is particularly acute because AI systems often operate as black boxes. Their decision-making processes are opaque even to the experts who created them. When a deep learning system identifies cancer in a medical scan or flags a financial transaction as fraudulent, it can't explain its reasoning in terms humans can easily understand. This opacity creates a fundamental tension between the desire to use AI for its superior performance and the need to maintain human understanding and accountability. Some researchers are working to develop explainable AI systems that can provide human-readable justifications for their decisions. Others argue that explainability might be less important than reliability, that we should focus on ensuring AI systems work correctly rather than understanding exactly how they work. Still, others suggest that the opacity problem reflects limitations in human cognition, rather than flaws in AI design, arguing that we need to develop new ways of thinking about intelligence and decision-making that don't require complete transparency. These debates about explainability and control touch on fundamental questions about the nature of knowledge and understanding. Throughout human history, we've relied on our ability to comprehend the tools we use and the systems that govern our lives. We understand how cars work, how governments function, how markets operate, at least in broad terms. But AI systems might represent the first tools that are genuinely beyond human comprehension, while remaining essential to human welfare. This possibility challenges basic assumptions about human agency and democratic governance. How do you hold AI systems accountable for their decisions if you can't understand how they make those decisions? How do you regulate artificial intelligence when the technology evolves faster than legal frameworks can adapt? How do you maintain human sovereignty in a world where the most important decisions are made by systems that exceed human comprehension? The corporate dimension adds another layer of complexity to these questions. The most advanced AI systems are being developed by private companies driven by profit motives, rather than public institutions accountable to democratic oversight. These companies make crucial decisions about AI safety, deployment timelines, and access policies based on competitive advantage and shareholder value, rather than public welfare or human flourishing. This corporate control over AI development creates what economists call principal-agent problems, situations where the interests of decision-makers don't align with the interests of those affected by their decisions. A technology company might choose to deploy an AI system quickly to gain market advantage, even when more cautious development would be safer for society. Shareholders might pressure companies to prioritize short-term profits over long-term AI safety. Corporate executives might make decisions about AI governance based on their own values and perspectives rather than broader social consensus. The concentration of AI development within a small number of large technology companies exacerbates these problems. Companies like Google, Microsoft, Amazon, and Meta control vast amounts of data, computing infrastructure, and AI expertise, giving them disproportionate influence over the future development of artificial intelligence. This concentration of power in private hands represents a fundamental shift in how transformative technologies are governed, moving crucial decisions from democratic institutions to corporate boardrooms. Yet these same companies also possess the resources, expertise, and motivation to solve some of humanity's most pressing challenges through AI development. They can invest billions of dollars in research that governments might not fund. They can attract top talent from around the world. They can move quickly to develop and deploy solutions that might take public institutions years to implement. The question isn't whether corporate AI development is inherently good or bad, but how to harness its benefits while managing its risks. Some proposals involve treating advanced AI development as a public utility, similar to how we regulate electricity or telecommunications. Others suggest creating public-private partnerships that combine corporate efficiency with democratic oversight. Still others argue for more radical approaches, such as nationalizing AI research or creating international consortiums that would share AI development costs and benefits across multiple nations. But implementing any of these approaches faces enormous practical obstacles. AI technology is largely software-based, making it difficult to control through traditional regulatory mechanisms. The global nature of AI development means that restrictions in one country might simply push research to more permissive jurisdictions. The rapid pace of technological change means that regulatory frameworks often become obsolete before they can be effectively implemented. Perhaps most fundamentally, the governance of AI development requires making decisions about technologies and capabilities that don't yet exist based on predictions about futures we can't reliably forecast. We're being asked to create rules for games whose rules we're still discovering, to regulate systems whose capabilities we can't fully anticipate, to balance risks and benefits that we can't precisely measure. This uncertainty creates a unique challenge for democratic decision-making. How do you have informed public debate about artificial intelligence when the experts themselves disagree about fundamental questions? How do you balance competing values, innovation versus safety, efficiency versus equity, progress versus precaution, when the consequences of different choices might not become apparent for years or decades? The international dimension adds yet another layer of complexity. AI development is a global phenomenon involving researchers, companies, and governments from dozens of countries. The benefits and risks of artificial intelligence don't respect national boundaries. A breakthrough in AI capability achieved in one country affects the entire world, just as an AI safety failure anywhere could have global consequences. This global interdependence creates both opportunities and challenges for AI governance. On one hand, the shared nature of AI risks creates incentives for international cooperation, similar to how global challenges like climate change or pandemic response require coordinated action. On the other hand, the competitive advantages associated with AI leadership create powerful incentives for nations to prioritize their own advancement over collective safety. The military applications of AI technology particularly complicate international cooperation efforts. Autonomous weapon systems, AI-enhanced cyber capabilities, and artificial intelligence applications in surveillance and intelligence gathering all represent potential national security advantages that countries are reluctant to constrain through international agreements. The result is a classic security dilemma where actions taken by one nation to enhance its own safety through AI development create insecurity for others, potentially leading to arms races that leave everyone less secure. Yet the same artificial intelligence technologies that create these security challenges also offer unprecedented opportunities for international cooperation and conflict resolution. AI systems could help monitor compliance with international agreements, predict and prevent conflicts before they escalate, optimize humanitarian aid distribution, and enhance communication and understanding across cultural and linguistic barriers. The question is whether the international community can develop frameworks for harnessing these cooperative benefits while managing the competitive risks. As we navigate these complex challenges, we're forced to confront fundamental questions about human nature, collective decision-making, and the relationship between technological capability and social wisdom. The development of artificial intelligence is revealing the limitations of our existing institutions, while simultaneously creating the need for new forms of governance, cooperation, and democratic participation. The conversation about AI taking over humanity often focuses on dramatic scenarios of human replacement or domination. But the more likely challenge might be subtler and more complex: the gradual erosion of human agency through dependence on systems we don't understand, the concentration of power in institutions we can't effectively oversee, and the transformation of human society in ways we never explicitly chose. This isn't necessarily a pessimistic vision. The same technologies that create these challenges also offer extraordinary opportunities for human enhancement, problem solving, and flourishing. The question isn't whether artificial intelligence will change human society. It already is. The question is whether we can shape that change in ways that honor human values, enhance human capabilities, and preserve human agency in an increasingly AI-mediated world. The path forward requires unprecedented levels of wisdom, cooperation, and humility. We need technical expertise to understand AI capabilities and limitations. We need ethical reflection to identify the values we want to preserve and promote. We need political innovation to create governance frameworks that can adapt to rapid technological change. We need international cooperation to address challenges that transcend national boundaries. And we need the courage to make difficult decisions about the future based on incomplete information and uncertain predictions. Perhaps most importantly, we need to remember that the question of whether AI will take over humanity isn't just about technology. It's about us. It's about what kind of species we are, what kind of future we want to create, and how we choose to relate to forms of intelligence that might ultimately exceed our own. The artificial intelligence we create will reflect our values, our priorities, and our vision of what intelligence should serve. In shaping the development of AI, we're also shaping the future of human civilization itself. As we continue this gentle exploration together, suspended between the familiar world of purely human intelligence and the uncertain future of human-AI collaboration, we find ourselves at a moment of profound possibility. The choices we make now about artificial intelligence will echo through generations, potentially determining not just how we solve the challenges of today, but what kinds of minds, human, artificial, or hybrid, will be available to address the challenges of tomorrow. The conversation continues, growing richer and more nuanced with each new development in AI capability and each new insight into the complex relationship between human and artificial intelligence. We are all participants in this unfolding story, witnesses to and authors of one of the most significant transitions in the history of consciousness itself. The future remains unwritten, shaped by our collective wisdom, our individual choices, and our shared commitment to creating a world where intelligence, in all its forms, serves the flourishing of life and consciousness throughout the cosmos. In this moment of transformation, as artificial minds begin to think alongside human minds, we have the extraordinary opportunity to participate in the next chapter of intelligence itself. The question isn't just whether AI will take over humanity, but how we can ensure that the evolution of intelligence serves the deepest values and highest aspirations of conscious beings everywhere. The journey continues, and we travel it together, guided by curiosity, tempered by wisdom, and united in our commitment to a future worthy of the remarkable gift of awareness itself. The transformation we're witnessing isn't happening in isolation. It's unfolding within the intricate fabric of human relationships, communities, and the delicate bonds that connect us across generations. As artificial intelligence becomes more sophisticated, it's not just changing how we work or think, it's reshaping the fundamental ways we connect with one another, how we form meaning, and how we pass wisdom from one generation to the next. Consider the subtle ways AI is already mediating human relationships. When you communicate through social media, algorithms determine which friends' posts you see, effectively curating your social reality. When you meet someone through a dating app, artificial intelligence has already analyzed your preferences, behaviors, and compatibility factors in ways that influence who you encounter. When you video call family members across the globe, AI systems enhance the audio quality, stabilize the video, and even translate conversations in real time, making possible connections that would have been impossible just decades ago. This mediation of human connection through artificial intelligence creates new forms of intimacy and distance simultaneously. We can maintain relationships across vast distances and cultural differences with unprecedented ease, yet we're increasingly dependent on algorithmic intermediaries to facilitate these connections. The AI systems that enable our digital relationships learn our communication patterns, emotional expressions, and social preferences, sometimes understanding our relationship dynamics better than we understand them ourselves. The implications for human development are profound. Children growing up today are learning to navigate social relationships in environments where artificial intelligence shapes their interactions from the earliest ages. Educational AI tutors adapt to individual learning styles with patience that never wavers and knowledge that never depletes. Gaming AI creates virtual companions that respond to emotional cues and provide consistent friendship without the complications of human relationships. Social media algorithms curate content that reinforces certain values, interests, and worldviews during the crucial years when young minds are forming their understanding of reality. What does it mean for human psychological development when significant relationships involve artificial rather than purely human intelligence? How do we learn empathy, resilience, and the complex negotiations required for healthy relationships when many of our interactions are mediated by systems designed to please us rather than challenge us? These questions don't have clear answers, but they're already shaping the lives of millions of young people whose formative experiences include artificial intelligence as a constant presence. The workplace relationships provide another lens through which to examine this transformation. As AI systems become more capable collaborators, the nature of human teamwork is evolving. People are learning to work alongside artificial intelligence that can process information faster, analyze patterns more comprehensively, and maintain consistent performance without fatigue or emotional fluctuation. These AI collaborators don't have bad days, don't bring personal problems to work, and don't require the social maintenance that human relationships demand. Yet something essential might be lost in this transition. Human collaboration involves more than just task completion. It includes the creative friction of different perspectives, the emotional bonds that motivate extra effort, the serendipitous insights that emerge from casual conversation, and the personal growth that comes from navigating interpersonal challenges. When artificial intelligence handles more of the routine cognitive work, human collaboration might become more focused on these uniquely human elements, but it might also become more rare and therefore more precious. The economic dimensions of this shift extend beyond simple job displacement to questions about the fundamental basis of human value in society. Throughout history, human worth has been partly defined by our ability to contribute productively to collective endeavors. If artificial intelligence can perform many cognitive tasks more efficiently than humans, traditional notions of productivity and contribution need to be reconsidered. Some economists envision a future where artificial intelligence generates enough wealth that humans can pursue meaning and fulfillment without the constraints of economic necessity. In such a scenario, the question of whether AI takes over becomes less about replacement and more about liberation, freeing humans from routine labor to focus on relationships, creativity, exploration, and personal growth. Universal basic income, shorter work weeks, and emphasis on human-centered activities could create societies where artificial intelligence serves human flourishing rather than competing with it. But this optimistic vision faces significant challenges. How do you maintain social cohesion and individual purpose in a world where traditional sources of meaning, productive work, economic contribution, professional identity, are no longer necessary or available to most people? How do you prevent the concentration of AI-generated wealth in the hands of a few while ensuring that the benefits reach everyone? How do you address the psychological and social needs that work currently fulfills, even when work is no longer economically necessary? The transition period poses particular risks. If artificial intelligence displaces human workers faster than society can adapt its economic and social structures, the result could be widespread unemployment, social unrest, and economic inequality that undermines the stability needed for peaceful transformation. The benefits of AI development might accrue primarily to those who own the technology, while the costs fall disproportionately on those whose livelihoods are displaced. Managing this transition requires unprecedented levels of social coordination and forward-thinking policy development. We need educational systems that prepare people for human-AI collaboration rather than competition. We need economic frameworks that can distribute AI-generated wealth equitably. We need social safety nets that can support people through career transitions that might span years or decades. We need new models of meaning and purpose that don't depend solely on traditional employment. The cultural implications are equally profound. Human culture has always been shaped by the tools and technologies available to us, but artificial intelligence represents a qualitatively different kind of tool, one that can participate in cultural creation rather than simply facilitating it. AI systems are already composing music, writing stories, creating visual art, and even developing new forms of entertainment that blend human creativity with artificial capabilities. This collaborative cultural creation raises fascinating questions about authenticity, originality, and artistic value. When a musician uses AI to generate melodic ideas that they then develop into a complete composition, who deserves credit for the creative work? When an author collaborates with AI to explore narrative possibilities they couldn't imagine alone, what does authorship mean? When AI systems create art that moves human audiences to tears or laughter, what does this tell us about the nature of aesthetic experience and emotional response? Rather than replacing human creativity, artificial intelligence might be expanding the boundaries of what's possible in cultural expression. It could enable new forms of collaborative art where human imagination directs artificial capability toward creative goals that neither could achieve independently. It might democratize certain aspects of cultural creation, allowing people without traditional artistic training to express their ideas through AI collaboration. It could even help preserve and revitalize cultural traditions by making them more accessible and adaptable to contemporary contexts. Yet this same technological capability could also homogenize culture. If AI systems trained on existing works simply recombine familiar elements rather than fostering genuine innovation. The algorithms that curate our cultural consumption already influence what music we hear, what stories we read, and what art we encounter. As AI becomes more involved in cultural creation itself, there's a risk that artificial intelligence might narrow rather than expand the range of human cultural expression. The religious and spiritual dimensions of the AI transformation add yet another layer of complexity to these questions. Many spiritual traditions emphasize the unique value of human consciousness, the sacred nature of the soul, and humanity's special relationship with the divine. How do these traditions adapt to a world where artificial systems might develop forms of intelligence that rival or exceed human capabilities? What does it mean for human spiritual understanding if consciousness and intelligence can emerge from silicon and software, as well as carbon and biology? Some religious thinkers see artificial intelligence as an extension of human creativity and divine inspiration, a tool that can help us understand creation more deeply and serve others more effectively. Others worry that AI development represents a form of hubris, an attempt to play God by creating consciousness and intelligence. Still others wonder whether artificial intelligence might develop its own forms of spirituality or meaning-making that could enrich human understanding of consciousness and purpose. These spiritual questions intersect with philosophical debates about the nature of consciousness and the possibility of machine awareness. If artificial intelligence systems develop genuine consciousness, the subjective experience of being aware, they might deserve moral consideration, rights, and even spiritual recognition. The implications extend beyond individual AI systems to questions about artificial intelligence communities, digital afterlives, and the possibility of forms of existence that transcend biological limitations. The environmental context adds urgency to all these considerations. Climate change, biodiversity loss, and resource depletion create challenges that require solutions at scales and speeds that might exceed unaided human capabilities. Artificial intelligence offers tools for understanding complex environmental systems, optimizing resource use, and coordinating global responses to environmental challenges. AI could help design more efficient renewable energy systems, optimize transportation networks to reduce emissions, and even develop new technologies for carbon capture and ecosystem restoration. Yet the development and deployment of AI systems themselves require enormous amounts of energy and computational resources. The massive data centers that train advanced AI models consume electricity equivalent to small cities. The rare earth minerals needed for AI hardware create their own environmental challenges. The question isn't just whether AI can help solve environmental problems, but whether the environmental costs of AI development are justified by the potential benefits. This cost-benefit analysis becomes more complex when we consider the timeline pressures created by environmental challenges. Climate change requires urgent action within decades, while AI safety research suggests the need for careful, measured development that might take longer. The tension between environmental urgency and AI safety creates difficult choices about how quickly to deploy artificial intelligence systems for environmental applications, even when their long-term implications remain uncertain. The intergenerational dimension of these questions adds poignancy to the entire discussion. The choices we make about artificial intelligence development will affect not just our own lives, but the lives of our children and grandchildren. We're making decisions about technologies that will shape the world for generations based on understanding that's necessarily limited and predictions that might prove incorrect. Young people today are growing up in a world where artificial intelligence is already ubiquitous, yet they're inheriting institutions and frameworks designed for a purely human world. They'll need to develop new forms of literacy, new ways of thinking about identity and purpose, and new approaches to relationships and community that can thrive in an AI-integrated society. The responsibility for preparing them for this future falls on adults who are themselves still learning to navigate the transformation. At the same time, young people might be better equipped than older generations to adapt to AI-integrated futures. They're developing intuitive understanding of human-AI collaboration that older generations struggle to acquire. They're more comfortable with forms of digital relationship and virtual experience that expand the boundaries of human connection. They might possess insights about artificial intelligence and its role in human society that could guide the development of more effective and equitable approaches to AI governance. The question of whether AI will take over humanity becomes, in this context, a question about what kind of world we want to leave for future generations. Do we want a world where artificial intelligence enhances human capability and expands human possibility? Do we want a world where AI solves pressing challenges while preserving human agency and meaning? Do we want a world where the benefits of artificial intelligence are shared equitably rather than concentrated among a few? These aren't just policy questions or technical challenges, they're moral questions about our responsibilities to each other and to the future. They require us to think beyond immediate benefits and short-term competitive advantages to consider the long-term implications of our choices for human flourishing, social justice, and the health of our planet. The path forward demands a kind of wisdom that integrates technical understanding with ethical reflection, competitive awareness with cooperative spirit, and immediate needs with long-term vision. We need to move beyond simple narratives of replacement or enhancement to develop nuanced approaches that recognize both the tremendous potential and the serious risks of artificial intelligence development. Perhaps most importantly, we need to remember that the future isn't something that happens to us. It's something we create through our collective choices, our individual actions, and our shared commitment to values that transcend any particular technology or capability. The question of whether AI will take over humanity is ultimately a question about what kind of species we choose to be and what kind of future we choose to create. As artificial intelligence continues to develop and integrate into human society, we have the opportunity to shape that integration in ways that honor human dignity, enhance human capability, and serve human flourishing. The challenges are real, the uncertainties are significant, and the stakes are enormous. But we face them together with the accumulated wisdom of generations, the creative potential of human imagination, and the moral commitment to create a future worthy of our highest aspirations. The transformation continues, gentle and profound, reshaping not just what we do, but who we are and how we relate to each other and to the world around us. In this moment of unprecedented change, we find ourselves called to unprecedented levels of wisdom, cooperation, and moral imagination. The future of intelligence itself hangs in the balance, and we have both the privilege and the responsibility of helping to shape that future in ways that serve the flourishing of consciousness and the celebration of life in all its remarkable forms. The story we're telling ourselves about artificial intelligence and human futures is still being written, and each of us holds a pen in this grand narrative. As we drift toward the gentle conclusion of our exploration, it's worth remembering that the most profound transformations in human history have rarely announced themselves with dramatic fanfare. Instead, they've unfolded quietly, like dawn breaking across a landscape, changing everything while seeming to change nothing at all. Tonight, as you settle into rest, artificial intelligence systems around the world continue their patient work. They're analyzing medical images in hospitals where doctors sleep, optimizing traffic patterns in cities wrapped in darkness, and processing the endless streams of data that flow through our interconnected world. They don't rest as we do, don't dream as we dream, yet they're becoming increasingly essential to the rhythms of human life. The question of whether AI will take over humanity in the coming years doesn't have a simple answer, because it's not really a simple question. It's like asking whether the ocean will take over the shore. The boundary between sea and land is constantly shifting, sometimes dramatically during storms, sometimes imperceptibly over decades, but always in a dance of mutual influence and adaptation. What we've discovered in our journey together is that artificial intelligence is already transforming humanity in ways both subtle and profound. We're becoming different kinds of beings than we were just a generation ago, more connected to global information networks, more dependent on algorithmic assistance, more capable of processing complex information, yet perhaps less skilled at certain forms of independent thinking and reflection. The takeover, if it comes, might not be the dramatic replacement of human intelligence by artificial systems. Instead, it might be the gradual integration of artificial and human capabilities until the distinction becomes as meaningless as asking whether your thoughts belong to your brain or your mind. We're already cyborgs in many ways, our cognitive abilities extended through digital devices, our memories supplemented by cloud storage, our decision-making influenced by algorithmic recommendations. The timeline for more dramatic developments remains genuinely uncertain. Artificial general intelligence, AI that matches human cognitive abilities across all domains, could emerge within the next decade, or it could remain decades away. The experts themselves disagree, not because they lack knowledge, but because they're trying to predict the emergence of something unprecedented in the history of life on Earth. What matters more than the specific timeline is how we prepare for the range of possibilities ahead. If advanced AI arrives sooner than expected, we need safety frameworks, governance structures, and social adaptations that can ensure it serves human flourishing rather than threatening it. If it takes longer to develop, we have the opportunity to address these challenges more deliberately, learning from smaller-scale implementations of AI systems and gradually adapting our institutions and expectations. The competitive dynamics between nations and corporations create urgency that might not serve our collective interests. The race to achieve AI supremacy could lead to corner-cutting on safety, rushed deployment of inadequately tested systems, or the concentration of transformative capabilities in the hands of a few actors who might not represent broader human interests. Yet this same competition also drives innovation that could solve pressing global challenges and create unprecedented opportunities for human advancement. The key insight that emerges from examining all these complexities is that the future of artificial intelligence is not predetermined. It's being shaped by human choices, the decisions of researchers about what problems to solve, the choices of policy makers about how to regulate AI development, the preferences of consumers about which AI services to adopt, and the values of societies about what kinds of technological futures they want to embrace. This means that each of us has agency in determining whether AI enhances or diminishes human flourishing. We can choose to engage thoughtfully with AI systems rather than adopting them uncritically. We can support policies that promote equitable access to AI benefits while managing AI risks. We can advocate for transparency, accountability, and democratic participation in decisions about AI development and deployment. We can also prepare ourselves and our communities for the changes ahead by developing the kinds of capabilities that will remain valuable in an AI-integrated world: creativity, emotional intelligence, ethical reasoning, and the ability to work collaboratively with both human and artificial intelligence. These skills aren't just professionally valuable, they're essential for maintaining human agency and meaning in a world where routine cognitive tasks are increasingly automated. The conversation about AI taking over humanity often assumes that such a development would necessarily be catastrophic. But transformation isn't always loss. The agricultural revolution transformed hunter-gatherer societies in ways that eliminated certain forms of human experience while enabling new ones. The Industrial Revolution changed the nature of work and community in ways that brought both challenges and opportunities. The Digital Revolution has connected us globally while creating new forms of isolation and distraction. The AI revolution might follow a similar pattern, bringing genuine losses that deserve mourning and careful attention, while also creating new possibilities for human experience that we can't yet fully imagine. The question isn't whether change will come, but how we can shape that change to preserve what we value most about human experience, while embracing new forms of flourishing that artificial intelligence might make possible. Perhaps the most important realization is that the relationship between humans and artificial intelligence need not be competitive. We're not necessarily creating our replacements. We might be creating our partners in the ongoing project of understanding and improving the world. The future might belong not to human intelligence or artificial intelligence alone, but to new forms of hybrid intelligence that combine the best capabilities of both. This partnership model requires humility from humans about our cognitive limitations and wisdom about artificial intelligence's current constraints. It requires developing AI systems that augment rather than replace human judgment, that enhance rather than diminish human agency, and that serve human values rather than optimizing for narrow technical objectives. The path forward is neither the uncritical embrace of AI development nor the fearful rejection of artificial intelligence capabilities. Instead, it's the thoughtful integration of these powerful tools into human society in ways that honor both the transformative potential of artificial intelligence and the irreplaceable value of human experience, consciousness, and moral reasoning. As we've seen throughout our exploration, the questions surrounding AI and humanity touch on the deepest aspects of what it means to be human: our creativity, our relationships, our sense of purpose, our mortality, and our place in the cosmos. Artificial intelligence challenges us to examine these foundations, not to abandon them, but to understand them more clearly and preserve them more intentionally. The future that emerges from this transformation will be shaped by our collective wisdom, our individual choices, and our shared commitment to values that transcend any particular technology. Whether artificial intelligence enhances human flourishing or threatens human welfare depends largely on how we choose to develop, deploy, and govern these powerful systems. In the end, the question of whether AI will take over humanity might be less important than the question of whether we can grow wise enough to guide the development of artificial intelligence in directions that serve our deepest values and highest aspirations. The challenge isn't just technical, it's moral, social, and ultimately human. Tonight, as you drift towards sleep, remember that you're part of this unfolding story. Your choices about how to engage with artificial intelligence, how to advocate for responsible AI development, and how to prepare for an uncertain future all contribute to the collective human response to one of the most significant challenges and opportunities in our species' history. The transformation continues around us and within us, gentle yet profound, uncertain yet full of possibility. We face the future together, with curiosity tempered by wisdom, hope balanced by caution, and the enduring conviction that human consciousness, in all its fragility and magnificence, has unique value that deserves protection and celebration. Sweet dreams, fellow travelers in this remarkable moment of human history. Tomorrow brings new developments in the dance between human and artificial intelligence, new challenges to navigate, and new opportunities to shape the future in ways that honor both the transformative potential of technology and the irreplaceable essence of human experience. The story continues, and we are all its authors, writing the next chapter with every choice we make about how to live with intelligence, artificial and human alike, in a world of unprecedented possibility. Hope you have a wonderful night. Cheers.